into the Football Guys Fantasy Football Show. It is week 17. We're taking a look at the waiver wire targets for the few, the proud, the fantasy managers that are left standing in their fantasy championships. Whether you're doing 1 week championship, 2 weeks, you made it. So congrats. If you're watching this video, either you are one of the best teams in your league or you're an absolute weirdo for watching a waiver wire video when you're eliminated. Either way, we're glad you're here. Dave, how has the fantasy playoffs been treating you so far?
You know, I told you last week it was rough, and it was rough again this week. I was in 5 matchups, 5 semifinals, and I won one of 5. So despite 9 teams making it into the playoffs, I only have 1 team that's fighting for a championship here. BBM, just some more bad luck. You know, had a team that did well, put up almost 140 points, and is sitting, not even close to advancing. So just been one of those years, man. You know, really good regular season, and then just got my teeth kicked in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, I mean, everything's been so weird in these final weeks. You got so many
Joe
players
Mixon
getting injured.
and Cooper Kupp are just screwing me. Like guys that really helped me, you know, have a strong regular season, just not showing up when it matters most.
I mean, there's a special place in hell for the people that drafted Jonathan Taylor, got eliminated from the playoffs last week because of the toss back, and then this week goes off for an insane amount of fantasy points.
Yeah.
It's
fantasy football.
Yeah. Anyways, we're doing the week 17 waiver wire targets. And as always, we're going to do this draft style. We're going to be looking at 6 players, and then we're going to give you some nice DSTs to look at, to potentially stream or start here in the fantasy playoffs. As always, Dave, you get the first pick, and then we will go back and forth on this. So why don't you kick us off? Your first player that you want to snag off the week 17 waiver wire.
Drake Maye, still available in a ton of leagues for some reason. I was shocked to see that he's only at like 35% rostership. He has been quietly putting together one of the better rookie seasons, and we've talked about it a lot. You know, the rushing upside has been fantastic. We were kind of hoping that would come to fruition in the NFL, and it has so far. So he's got a nice floor and ceiling because of the rushing. The passing has really started coming together in recent weeks. I mean, yesterday against Buffalo, we saw 261 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's just starting to look like a more confident and poised passer. And next week, he's got a matchup against the Chargers. And I know on paper, the Chargers might look like a tough matchup. They got a lot of big names on defense, but they have been pretty susceptible to quarterbacks through the passing game. So, going into week 12, into week 17, there's a lot of people who are still streaming quarterbacks. And there are a lot of guys, maybe Kyler Murray or Jared Goff that you're not feeling as great about going into week 17. Drake Maye is going to be easily within my top 10 this week.
He just continues to be really good. It has nothing to even do with streaming at this point. There's a lot of these quarterbacks that we see them make a jump at a certain point where they're not streamers. They're just good fantasy quarterbacks that you could start week in and week out, and Drake Maye is already there. Dynasty people, I mean, rejoice that you got him when you did. And then for those of you, I mean, just looking into next season, I think Drake Maye becomes a really good option as we go into drafts next year.
Yeah, and I don't want to get like too off the rails with Dynasty, but how crazy is it that like Marvin Harrison was the 101, going ahead of Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels in like super flex leagues even. And if you look back at first rounds, I mean, Brian Thomas Jr., who was regularly the wide receiver 4 off the board, looking like he might be the best wide receiver. Brock Bowers might be the most valuable non-quarterback in like all of Dynasty right now. So everybody was paying up for Marvin Harrison, and you start looking back at some of those rookie draft boards and yikes, looking where Drake Maye and Bo Nix and Michael Penix and some of these other guys were sliding. Looks like one of the top picks in the draft might not have been the best one this year.
If I could do the thing that everyone hates really quick and talk about one of my own Dynasty teams, I had one of those picture perfect drafts where I got Brock Bowers, Brian Thomas, Drake Maye. And it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful. I have a bunch of others where I drafted Jonathan Brooks, and now those teams are in shambles. But that's not the point.
I mean, how about the people who got Bo Nix in like the middle of round 2, and he's just been an immediate QB1?
Round 3 over here, sir.
Whew.
Round 3.
Wow.
Anyways, let's get back on track here. The week 17 waiver wire targets. The first guy I'm going to look at here, Dave, I'm really surprised. I'm surprised in you. I think maybe you just got some fatigue at talking about handcuff running backs. But Trey Benson with the injury to James Conner. Maybe you're just being nice. Maybe you're just letting me get a few punches in here.
One,
yeah. I'm sure you did. You're a sweet guy. But Trey Benson, he's available in over 80% of fantasy leagues. And now you got James Conner, who hurts his knee. It doesn't look great. It doesn't seem to be a tear of any type, but I mean, the thoughts are still out there. We don't know what it's going to be. I think the big takeaway from this is that the Cardinals have been eliminated from playoff contention, and there's really no reason to trot James Conner back out there. You draft a young guy in Trey Benson to come in and be the heir apparent at the running back spot. Let him go and get his touches this week. And especially this week going up against the Rams, every running back to go up against the Rams this season has hit double-digit fantasy points. I think I would easily rank him as a top 20 running back in week 17, just on the sheer volume alone. He's going to be a good receiving option out of the backfield if they get anywhere near the red zone. Kyler Murray has struggled so much in the red zone that the Cardinals are just so quick to run the ball when they get anywhere near the end zone. So Trey Benson, for me, I mean, we talked about him weeks ago. I think it was like 5 weeks ago in one of our stash episodes that Trey Benson could be the league winner of fantasy leagues. And here we are, week 17, and Trey Benson could be a league winner.
Yeah, I can't remember what that game was. It was there was a period in time where they really kind of put him on the shelf and he was only getting like 2 or 3 touches per game. And then it was, like you said, about 5 or 6 weeks ago, they had a game where they kind of opened him up a little bit and let him get some extra touches. He had double-digit carries in that game. And that was when I went back and watched the film and I was like, this is a completely different player than the guy that we saw in week 1. The guy that we saw early in the season was shying away from contact, moving east and west, and now he has just developed into and it's crazy to say develop because it's only been like half a season, but he is just a much more physical and downhill runner. You got to think that, sitting there on the sidelines watching the way James Conner plays football has rubbed off on him a little bit because he's a much more physical player now than he was in the early part of the season.
I mean, for running backs, there's a comfortability that they need to have. It's almost like when you're driving somewhere new for the first time, you drive a little bit slower. You're looking for all the right turns. You don't quite know where you're going. It's the same thing for running backs. They're looking for running lanes. They're getting used to their offensive linemen. They're still getting used to the speed of the game, their offense. I mean, that's exactly what it is. That's the analogy I use every time for these running backs. It just takes time. There's very few of these players that can just hit the ground running, so to speak, right out of the gate week 1. So, yeah, I think Trey Benson should have himself a really nice week if James Conner is out, which looking more likely that he is. Dave, next pick on here.
Ameer Abdullah, we weren't sure who was going to pick up the slack with Sincere McCormick out of the picture. Alexander Madison got some touches, but Ameer Abdullah got most of the valuable touches. We saw 6 targets go his way yesterday. Also saw 7 carries. Those, you don't get too excited about the carries, but it's the target total that really excites me. 6 targets last week, 7 targets the week before. And you look at this matchup against the Saints, they do not have a good run defense. I don't know exactly which way this one's going to skew, whether they're going to be able to lean on the run a little bit late in the game or whether they'll be playing in this hurry-up offense and get more touches to Ameer Abdullah. But there's some players out there who are in the championship now that are scouring the waiver wire, looking for somebody they can plug into the flex spot in week 17. And Ameer Abdullah, given the target total that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, makes for a pretty reasonable flex-worthy play in week 17 against the Saints.
I mean, there's enough of these players that are injured or honestly not performing that I'm willing to take chances on guys like Ameer Abdullah and take chances on a lot of these guys that we talk about here on the waiver wire, especially at the running back spot. And we brought him up last week. He was one of my top waiver wire ads last week, and it was just all about the fact that the Raiders are going to consistently be in a pass first scenario. He is going to be their passing down back. No one else has been able to do it, Dave. So 5 points to you. Good job, David.
Thank you.
Thank you. My next pick here is going to be another running back. There's a theme, but Audric Estime, who I haven't had much faith throughout the season. And this, I will use the caveat that it's going to be in a desperate situation where maybe you don't have your first 2 running backs anymore. And you're just saying, man, I got to throw my running back 3 to my running back 1 spot. I got to pick someone up off the waiver wire. I've got to fill a lineup. This is desperation time in my league. This is also for deeper leagues. Some of you that are in 12, 14 team leagues that have made the championship. Audric Estime becomes a guy. He is 93% available. This is a team that really, we haven't been able to decide who or even start anyone from this backfield because you don't know who it's going to be. We might be seeing something happening, and I say that very, very carefully. With no Jaleel McLaughlin due to a quad injury, the up and down nature that we've had with Javonte Williams, we finally got to see Audric Estime lead the backfield in carries. And I think we could end up seeing that again. He even got a touchdown early in the game. This wasn't a garbage time thing where they tried to have him run out the clock, which, by the way, Herbert and the Chargers just went crazy at the end there. So it would not surprise me if the Broncos try to correct that mistake and do a better job of actually running out the clock when they have a lead in games. So Audric Estime becomes a very interesting sort of RB3 flex play ad for me this week.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't scoff at Audric Estime when I'm out here telling people to pick up Ameer Abdullah and play him in the flex spot. But yeah, the Broncos running backs are scary.
Yeah.
What is it? The cojones, huevos, whatever it takes to plug a running back into your lineup from Denver. I don't have him.
I mean, if you made it this far, you got something going right. You got something going right. So this is only for the most desperate of fantasy managers that have nowhere else to turn. I don't know. Maybe you get a Christmas miracle.
Stuff. I mean, the reality is most people who are in week 17 are there because they got there with the team that they have.
Yep.
So I mean, if you lost James Conner and you need somebody, hopefully Trey Benson, Audric Estime, Ameer Abdullah, one of those guys is out there.
Yeah. All right, Dave. We're going quick through this. There's not a whole lot, but it's the waiver wire. It's the waiver wire for the last two teams in the league that probably don't need a whole lot, but we'll have some fun with this. I'm really excited because I know this pick that you're going to make right now, and it's a guy that we used to talk about all the time, and it feels so good to be back again.
I know this is like striking some nostalgia, right? Like before we ever even did this show, the Football Guys Fantasy Football Show, I was a regular on your show, The Pretend GM. You were a regular guest on my show, The Launchpad. And it seemed like every time we would do a show together, we would talk about Chig Okonkwo, who was a rookie at the time. And he was doing some really exciting things his rookie season. And then admittedly kind of fell off and didn't really do much in year 2 and hasn't done much in year 3 either. But over the last 2 weeks, saw 10 targets last week, saw 11 targets the week before. I mean, that is fantastic usage, and that usage is coming mostly with Mason Rudolph. They have some sort of connection, whether it be from their time with the second team or, early in OTAs. They've built some chemistry with each other, and when Mason Rudolph drops back, he is looking Chig Okonkwo's way. So, again, this could be a trap, much like Brenton Strange was last week. I started Brenton Strange in a few weeks. They're in a few leagues, feel terrible about it. But, there's a lot of people out there streaming tight end. And we've talked about it a lot. If you got Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, you probably feel okay about it. If you don't have one of those guys, you're probably perusing the waiver wire. So I haven't done my week 17 rankings yet, but I imagine Chig Okonkwo is going to be pretty high. I mean, this is a guy with just game-breaking athleticism. And that's what we liked about him as a rookie, right? He was kind of filling that role that was left by Jonnu Smith, a really athletic tight end who could make big plays. We've seen the big plays so far. He had that 70-yard touchdown, the catch and run against Houston about a month ago, and now we're starting to see the usage there. So Chig Okonkwo, a name that we probably haven't talked about much over the last couple of years, but now is suddenly in a fantasy-relevant position heading into Week 17.
Yeah, Dave, you talk about this relationship between Mason Rudolph and Chig Okonkwo, and we see this often, and Dave, there's a very technical term for this in the scouting community. It's called not being very good at football, and that's what happens with Mason Rudolph. He just locks in on like one or two guys. He's a check down king. He throws it to the running backs. He's going to throw the quick passes to the tight end, especially a guy like Chig who can make something happen after the catch. And I mean, we're not seeing a whole lot from really anyone else in this offense. And,
been a while since you've seen this shirt, right, Alfredo?
Oh, God. For those of you listening, Dave just stood up, one, showing a fantastic physique, and then a glorious Chig Okonkwo t-shirt.
Got a little small over the years. Either I got bigger or the shirt got smaller. I can't tell.
Bit of both. But it does look like you're going to be attending the Okonkwo family barbecue this weekend, so have fun. All right. Last pick on here. Oh, at least, yeah, last pick. Wow, we did this so fast.
We got an honorable mention we'll sneak in there.
Yeah. This is so fast, Dave. It's like the season's just coming to an end, and anyways, I don't want to get all misty-eyed here. But my last pick, Marquise Brown, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's probably not as available in leagues as we would like, but he's roughly 67% available in fantasy leagues, and I think he's very much worth considering as a wide receiver 3 or flex play if needed. Once again, I know there's the caveat with most people, either A, he's not available in my league, or B, you really think I'm going to start Marquise Brown? You're crazy. Well, this is not for you then, man. Like this is for the people who are desperate at wide receiver, who are in deep leagues, who have experienced injuries, and Marquise Brown is available. And going up against Pittsburgh, they actually started the year so much better. And as of lately, the Pittsburgh Steelers secondary has not been great. They've actually allowed the 8th most points to wide receivers in fantasy football over the last month, and they've allowed 7 touchdowns in 4 games to wide receivers. Patrick Mahomes really looks to be, I don't want to say he looks like the Patrick Mahomes that we've been used to, but he's definitely hitting his stride. He's not turning the ball over as much. The offense looks a little bit better, and even though he spreads the ball around a ton, Marquise Brown in his first game back looking at 8 targets. I know Xavier Worthy went out and had 11 targets, but we could start to see something here where Marquise Brown is going to be, if that was him getting eased into the offense, I'd love to see what it ends up being this
Honestly,
week.
that was
As
on like
that role continues to
14
grow.
routes run. Like
Yeah.
he was hardly on the field, and every time
Yeah.
he was drawing usage. That's something to pay attention to.
Yes. And honestly, Dave, like, I don't know that teams are going to be planning their defense around Marquise Brown. If anything, they're going out there, and Joey Porter Jr. is probably going to be shadowing a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, or trying to
Travis
stop the
Kelce.
game-breaking speed of, Travis Kelce's another one as well, but could be trying to stop the game-breaking speed of Xavier Worthy. That's the guy I keep seeing in all the articles, and how Xavier Worthy's role keeps growing, and the Chiefs' offense is finally getting unlocked at the right time because Xavier Worthy is developing at the right time. And so Marquise Brown kind of ends up being the forgotten guy, but he could very easily lead the Chiefs in targets here this upcoming week against a secondary that just hasn't really done a great job as of late. So I am more than comfortable not only picking up Marquise Brown, but potentially starting him if I need another wide receiver in my lineup.
You know, Alfredo, I didn't look at the show sheet before we started recording today, so I don't know who you were talking about. Totally unplanned, but we were just talking about all my guys. So wardrobe change.
Dave,
Now we got the Marquise Brown shirt on.
I could not see you, so I don't know when you changed. I don't know if you got up.
Well, you're in the middle of
I don't know
talking,
if we had nipples on camera.
No nips. I keep an office. This is my office, and I've got a closet in here, and I keep all of my my player T-shirts in there. And as I heard you talking about Marquise Brown, I just muted my mic, ran over to the closet, changed, and yeah, if we would talk about Kyle Pitts or Brees Hall,
No, we won't.
or Donovan Peoples-Jones, I can bust out some shirts for them too.
Oh man. Oh my God. Dave, I love who you are. I love you
Marquise
so
Brown.
much right now.
You know, this is good to see, though. It makes me feel a little bit better about drafting Marquise Brown in 40% of my fantasy leagues this year. Sure, may have gotten 0 points through the first 15 weeks, but knowing that the process was right, because he's a good fit in this offense, and he is unlocking the passing game, drawing the usage I want to see. Screw the first 15 weeks, it's all water under the bridge. Those 0 points we got, no big deal. The process was right. Marquise Brown looks very good in this offense.
Never wrong, just early. Remember
That's the truth. Chig Okonkwo, week 17 breakout.
We'll see you again next year, Chig Okonkwo, in pre-draft season. All right, Dave, you mentioned some honorable mentions here. Why don't you go ahead? List off some of these honorable mentions that you wanted to talk about.
I don't have some. I have one. Over-promising, under-delivering, kind of what we do here. The Colts, though.
I got more.
The Colts are available in about 30% of leagues right now, and if you're in a league that needs a defense or special teams, I don't care who it was. I don't care if Alabama got promoted to the NFL and they were playing against the Giants. I would start any team that's going up against the Giants right now. I don't know if you saw what they looked like yesterday, but this offense is just an absolute joke. They're going to turn the ball over a ton. They're going to give up a lot of sacks, and the Colts defense is looking pretty good over these last few weeks. So if you're in a league that you need a defense, special teams, and you have been streaming, look no further than Colts. I would have recommended trying to pick them up a couple of weeks ago, but hopefully you've still got some fab remaining and can go out and get them for your Week 17 lineup.
Well, one, that's a great suggestion there on the Colts. Anyone going up against the Giants, you're totally right. But we're not going to overpromise and underdeliver, because I got a few more DSTs that people can start, or I guess we can call it. It's not really. Is it streaming if there's only 1 week left?
I don't know.
It's just. I don't know. We're
like,
let us know in the comments.
I'm writing my 3 up, 3 down article right now, and it's all about like players trending up and down. And I'm like, what trends do we care about? There's 1 week left, so I'm basically my 3 up, 3 down. This article is essentially a start sit article because the trends don't matter. We've got 1 week left in the season.
Why don't you write a trade targets article? See how that goes. I'm sure we'll get a ton of clicks. So, okay, we teased it long enough. The other defenses that you could potentially look at, let's say Indy's gone because someone looked ahead and saw the New York Giants there, right? Miami, the Dolphins going up against the Cleveland Browns, it potential to be a bad weather game. Jameis Winston is the gift that keeps on giving. He has not quite been delivered from pick sixes, or even if they're not pick sixes, they're at least interceptions.
So I think it's going to be DTR next week.
You were so right. I can't believe I said that because I knew he had DTR there.
Yeah.
DTR
even
remains.
Worse.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was
he's
going to say
terrible. He is so bad.
100%. I can't believe I just had that brain fart. You can tell it's week 17. Yeah, but DTR, it was not nearly. I mean, it was pretty bad, Dave. It was pretty bad. He remains the guy who, despite his mobility, he gets sacked a ton, and I think a lot of that is just going to be the pocket awareness for him. And last team on here as well. It sounds crazy, but sometimes we need a little bit of crazy when we get into the final round of your fantasy playoffs. The Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the Tennessee Titans. It's if you are desperate, if you are absolutely desperate in your DST, and there's that one guy in the playoffs that went and stashed like 5 defenses, some leagues still allow that, and he got eliminated and he's not dropping them. Man, Jacksonville is the desperation DST to stream there.
Yeah, and it all depends on league format. I mean, if you're in one of those leagues that like really punishes you for opposing teams scoring a lot of points, it's going to be tough when Chig Okonkwo scores 7 touchdowns to really salvage the outing from the Jacksonville defense. But I think you're on the right track, Alfredo. Just scoring system dependent.
Yeah. Well, Dave,
Alfredo,
that's it, man. Week 17 waiver wire. Our targets, our DST streamers. For all of you that are in the championships, man, this is a big week. I'm so happy that you guys have been with us along this journey for the season. And well, I mean, first of all, Dave, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and to everyone watching and listening. It's been a treat to be with everybody this season.
Yeah, I'll be traveling back to Chicago this week to see some family. If anybody's in Chicago and going to the Bears game on Thursday night, let me know. We will be tailgating in the North Lot beforehand. You know, I always love to meet some people in the audience and say what's up. So if you're there, shoot me a message on Twitter and Blue Sky, and we could try to meet up. But yeah, man, Christmas is always a good time, stressful time, exciting time to see the family, all that good stuff. And we will have a good sweat after Christmas in those Week 17 championship matchups.
You guys are celebrating. You mentioned you guys are celebrating Christmas Eve, right? That's what my family does. Yeah.
Yeah. Broken family, you know, that's just kind of the way it worked out. You know, we'd see mom's side of the family on Christmas Eve, see dad's side of the family on Christmas Day, and that's just always the way we've done it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that, going to the tons of different houses. I know Gabby and I, my wife, like we've gotten used to going to 4 different houses on holidays because both families have been split at varying parts. There's so many forks in the family tree.
Oh, we don't have a family tree. We have a family thorn bush is what ours looks like.
Man, but we're hosting this year. We're hosting Christmas Eve this year, and it has been a nightmare. Those of you that do it every single year, props to you, especially the ones that have kids. I don't know how you do this. There's the elf on the shelf is running all over our house. There have been gifts that are on their way from the North Pole. There's decorating. There is food. There's so much. I don't know how people do it. Parents, you're the best, honestly.
So my wife and I, we did our gift exchange on Saturday. You know, we bought each other some gifts, and yesterday was a busy day for both of us, packing and working and doing all that. And then today we fly out. So our Christmas season is going to be like a week long this year. Like we started opening gifts on Saturday that we exchanged with each other, go home for Christmas Eve with my family, and then Christmas Day with her family. And then the 2 days after Christmas, we're seeing step parents and grandparents and all sorts of other stuff. It is just going to be a week long of nonstop Christmas activities here for the Kluge family.
I can't tell if that's a good thing or bad thing, but either way, I hope you enjoy it.
I'm ready for it to be over already, and it hasn't even started.
Well, I mean, Dave, I think this is a good time as I need to say it, but this is going to be our last show for a little while here. We're going to take a little bit of time off throughout the NFL playoffs and week 18, but this will be our last show for a little bit. Dave, we're planning on doing a live in-person draft when we all go to Las Vegas for the Football Guys Retreat. That is in the second week of January. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an entire mock draft as if the fantasy season started that day. We'll do our best to, incorporate stuff like rookies and all that, but we kind of want to see what changes between our thought process at the end of this season versus where we end up pre-draft next year, because a lot of times we just outsmart ourselves and just do stupid things. So I think that'll be really fun to do all that in person. Then, of course, throughout the offseason, we're going to be talking about rookies, free agency, coaching changes, all that. So don't go hibernating for like 6-7 months and then come back later. We will continue to be doing stuff throughout the offseason.
And what I will say is, like, if you're playing fantasy football, you definitely want to pay attention to the draft and rookie stuff, as you see this year, fading some of the big names that we talked about early. Like, if you avoided Marvin Harrison, probably doing pretty well for yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of talk that he was getting overdrafted in the spring. And then we were very much so big on some of the names that have really broken out this year, Bucky Irving and Tyrone Tracy and some of these other guys that we were talking about during the draft season. So definitely be sure to check that out when we're doing shows in March and April, because I think having a good read on those incoming rookies is one of the best ways to get an edge in the upcoming fantasy football season.
Yeah, I think what happens is that throughout, one, we get bored and we do the thing where we quote eat when we're bored throughout
Mhm.
the off season, where we just start to, okay, well, what guys are moving up and down the rankings, and obviously we'll end up doing that show anyways because we will be bored in the middle of June. But it's funny. I think that a lot of best ball and dynasty and a lot of that's going on in the offseason starts to, I don't want to say infect, but
Yeah, it
make
does.
its way into the redraft stuff. And we'll do things like say, well, there's no way Saquon Barkley is going to be a good running back this year because Jalen Hurts is going to take away all the touchdowns. And it's just, all right, look at us. Look at us with egg on our face. Anyways, Dave, this has been a great season. It's been a
Has
lot of
been.
fun. A
Yeah.
huge thanks to everyone that has supported us. The YouTube channel is going just swimmingly. It's been great. If you have not subscribed already to the YouTube channel, make sure to make your way over there, subscribe to the channel, check out our videos so you can see our faces. And we've got so much planned for you guys this off season, so much for the next season. Football Guys continues to grow and to flourish, and all of that happens with you guys. So from the bottom of our hearts, genuinely, we want to thank you. You guys have been a massive Christmas and holiday gift for us, and hopefully we've been able to help you guys the same way with your fantasy football teams. For myself, for Dave, for everyone here at Football Guys, we'll see you next time. Adios.